doesn't have a permanent immigration status in Canada per se. So anybody that is here, visitor, worker, refugee claimant, non-status, and wherever they are, at least sometimes for their status. So therefore, this is our main goal. And refugee claimants was our starting point. We are refugees, but here we diverse and we are welcoming everybody in our office. So this is the programs. I am not going to talk about the programs in details, but the new programs that we have are the anti-human trafficking, where we focus in labor, exploitation, and international cases of human trafficking. And we have become an organization working in this file for many years. And now, because the COVID-19, the labor component have been increased a lot, in terms of work, because many people, non-status, precarious migrants, workers, they lost their job, they lost their income, and we will have to do advocacy in terms of grocery, cars, food, some subsidies for rent, name it. So this is a very, um, you know, very heavy work that we are doing during these last 5 or 6 months because we never close technically. And the other is the primary care clinic. People that don't have a status, they don't have access to healthcare, even though we believe officially that it's a universal healthcare. It is not, because it's not for everybody that is a resident of our province. So in that case, we open when Jason Kenney closed or reduced the coverage for the interim federal health program for refugees. That day then was officially closed, we opened the primary care clinic for uninsured people. And this is a clinic that have been also, very busy during this time, because even though the province said that the province is going, any hospital can take care of anybody, regardless of status, and regardless if it is a condition related to COVID-19, that was not true. Not everybody received the memo, and we have been doing a lot of advocacy and seeing a lot of people here, particularly children, because nobody was providing the vaccines, at the time of when they needed. So, and a program that can be a core is in the middle, no, immigration, help, and refugee protection. This is a program that also have been growing in a different in a huge different way, because people that were precarious in a precarious situation, then they lost their job, now they see the real need to apply, because if no, they don't have a way to survive in this society. So this is our organization. Our organization characterized for responding to the needs that appear in our door. And networking, public education. You have been in contact with us, as members of OCASI in many of these programs, because we do presentations and whatever. And let me tell you that this presentation that we are doing for OCASI now, you can contact us directly. And if you want, then we do presentation directly to your clients. That is something that we do free of charge, particularly now that I don't have to move and we can do it soon. So so that's my organization. That's the organization that was created 29 years ago, by Loli and I, and now is becoming a well-known organization in the advocacy work and in the provision of services for refugees, but also for non-status people. So the agenda, no, the impact of COVID-19, CBSA, IRCC, and IRB. So after every topic, we are going to have a time for questions. So please write it down, and Debbie is going to help me to basically screen the questions in order that they are not repetitive or they are not to the topic. And remember that at the end of the presentation, when we finish the 3 topics, you will have also time to do some more questions, or that we answer the question that we're not able to answer before. So let me start.
Very good.
So
Thank you, Francisco.
So the impact of COVID-19, Canada Border Service Agency, no? So this is something that the COVID-19 have been forcing the government to be more proactive in the internet, in the website. So a lot of information is there, but the problem is that that information doesn't match the realities of procedures. Why? For different reasons. No bureaucrats approach, lack of resources, lack of understanding of the procedures. So that's why I will show you how the process is in theory working and what are the limitations that we face in every situation. So the first one is, um, the exceptions for traveling. No, so then you know it by heart, in my opinion. So we have two different ones. One is from United States. So if you are arriving from United States, you can see the procedures there. Then has to be essential, and they are now making some exception for people to come from United States. To stay in Canada or to visit Canada, but not as a non-discretionary, no as a visitor, no as a tourist, has to be another reasons. And always there has to be a quarantine, 14 days quarantine plan, then the people have to be able to present at the border, with CBSA in order that the person come in. And the other thing that they have to prove the essential reason why they are visiting Canada, visiting a close relative, visiting a partner, a spouse, different things could be used as well. And and the other one is people arriving from other countries. No, then it's more or less the same, but it's more difficult because if you arrive from other countries, the majority of the time you have to deal with the airlines and with something that is called the protection, the integrity officer of CBSA in that particular country. The integrity officers of CBSA are the ones that are displayed in all the main airports and or where people take planes to come to Canada directly. So this review the issues of people taking planes to Canada. So now the physical presence is not there for reasons of COVID-19, but some airports they have flights, commercial flights that are acting. For instance, Mexico is one of them, where the people is start to come, and we sometimes see people in our office that they arrived during the pandemic from Brazil, from Chile. We never had from Europe. We never had the situation from other continents that are far away. But from these regions, we have had people that have arrived, and somehow they have convinced the person for essential traveling, and they have of course, this avoid or this is not talking about the temporary workers or agriculture workers, then it's a clear sense and we have a clear program for that one, where many of us disagree the way that the migrant workers are treated in Canada, particularly related to the COVID-19. But that's the exceptions, no? Then CBSA is in charge to screen the people coming into Canada. So what I want to say is that in terms of refugee claimants, if people wants to make a refugee claimant at the border, at the land border, now they are entitled to. Before, you remember, they closed totally and they were not even accepting refugee claimants at the port of entry. But now, yes. The information that we have is that the port of entry that is active receiving refugee claimants at the land port of entry is 480, the Peace Bridge, where CBSA have informed us that they have a procedure where they are not going to see many people during the day like before. They are doing this by appointment only. And they are reducing the capacity to 2 to 3 claimants per day at the max. So, and the organization that is doing all these appointments is the Vive la Casa in Buffalo, where Vive la Casa is a member of the coalition of refugee houses, in Ontario. So, and we have a good communication. They said that the waiting period of time for a person to make a claim that has to stay in Buffalo is months. So in that case, if you have any people trying or thinking in coming to Canada, you have to inform that the possibilities to travel to the border and to make a claim is imply a lot of delays, and the claim will be accepted, to make a claim will be accepted only if you met the exceptions of the safer country agreement. Don't get confused. We have a decision that is go against the safer country agreement, but haven't been implemented yet. So the safer country agreement in theory will be canceled in 6 months, because that was the decision of the court. But there is this period of time. The government may decide to appeal the decision from the court, and in that case, we will be in a for another lengthy of time waiting for something to be clear. But so far, the rules of the Safer Country Agreement apply. Plus, you will be allowed to make a refugee claim, but need to comply with the 14 days quarantine requirement. In this case, the government is providing hotels for people that enter Canada. They don't have a way to guarantee that they will be in isolation for 14 days. So the people that entering from the Fort Erie are moved to Niagara Falls, the city of Niagara Falls, where there is a place there, and then they are moved to Toronto. So many of them, they are totally in isolation, and the communication from outside to them is very difficult. That's why we always advise when the person contact an office, to set up times to call, that the person called you back, because we have tried to communicate with them to the hotels, have been almost impossible. So, and people have been communicating with us, and we have been trying to find a shelter after they finish the 14 days, applying for legal aid, many things that you can do during that time. If you don't meet the exception of the safer country agreement, please tell the person not to appear in the border, because they will be sent back. And this person will be sent back to United States, where you are more aware than me of the nasty situations for non-status people in United States. Um, and so the person will be detained for sure, and they may be deported back to their country, depending of the ability of that they have to send you in a plane. For instance, they are doing deportations to Central America. No, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador have signed a safer country agreement with United States, and they are receiving deportees from United States. So we want to avoid that a person just come without any information, appear at the border, and the person is sent back and disappear in the system of United States. Those entering through irregular border are not allowed to make a refugee claim in Canada. And I am referring to Roxcan in Quebec. So if someone appeared there is a problem, because before the person appeared, RCMP said you are crossing the border irregularly, but they were allowed to make an inland refugee claimant. But now the RCMP stopped the person and send the person back. And that's a problem, because that could be also in the hands of the authorities in United States, and many things could happen. So that's why we're saying, please, if you don't have a relative in Canada that give you an exception for the safer country agreement, please don't come. This is not the time to come. Or try to find a visa when this is open. but don't try to come irregularly. The weather is attractive to do this. We know that during the summer, the irregular crossing go up. That's every year. But now, due to the COVID-19, we are suggesting not to use the uh, the ways of the people. Just wait, because you can have a serious implication if you are sent back to United States. So, Canada Border Service Agency, as I said, I explained the claims at the border. So now I will be talking about the claims that happen or people that is already inside Canada that are making a refugee application. So first of all, CBSA currently is not holding any in-person eligibility interview. The eligibility interview for refugee claimants is the one where you receive the brown paper. That people goes out of the meeting with the brown paper that imply that you have officially making a refugee application or refugee claim, and your case have been referred to the Immigration and Refugee Board. This is not happening. So that's why it's a problem that, or it's a situation that is creating many misunderstandings. If a, but if a claim appears at the person international airport that is open for international traveling, CBSA, because our law is forced to proceed receiving the claim. And in that particular moment is an exception, and they see in-person people, you know, in a big room, and they do the interviews and they process the claim, and they give you, if they can, the brown paper, and they give you the basic for claim form. Very few people manage to overcome the barriers for taking the plane from outside Canada to come to Canada as a visitor or something, and to make a refugee application. In our office, we are aware of 5 cases that happen. We are aware because they come to our office after. So sometimes they can also schedule the interview for later. They can send you to a quarantine hotel, and the quarantine hotel is very close to the airport, and then they call you back for interviews. They are trying to avoid this because to avoid the conflict with the physical contact, or physical distances. And if the interview is set for later on, um, they will their scheduled interviews. They only. I'm sorry. Let me organize my mind. I was talking about the people coming into the airport, and very few before the pandemic, and make a claim. At the airport, and they receive eligibility interview were canceled. And they haven't reopened yet. So I have a sign here saying that my internet is unstable. Could you tell the people not to use it, please? So their scheduled interview was canceled, as I said. The CBSA is going to contact people. Is going to contact you to say, this is the time that your eligibility interview will be um, um, you know, having place, but we don't have a date yet, no? So in that way, um, if you need the information about how to cancel, or how to contact CBSA to report a case, that the eligibility interview didn't happen, please contact us to our office. Our information is at the end of the presentation, and we can give you that information, because when the person enter Canada, most of the time they don't have a phone, a Canadian phone. They don't have a specific address. So CBSA may have a problem to contact you to let you know that your eligibility interview have been rescheduled for this particular day. So that's why they are asking us to say, everybody, please contact this email, this phone number, send the information in order that CBSA can contact you. The other thing that CBSA is entitled to, or is the jurisdiction of, is the pre-removal risk assessment. You know, they were sending letters to say that please come to. Sorry. The pre-removal risk assessment is a process that is taking place for people that are going to be removed from Canada, either that they were detained doing, because they were working without any work permit, or because they make a claim and they pass after they receive a negative decision, the pre-removal risk assessment kick in. If they stay here for reasons related to CBSA not able to remove you for more than a year. So they were receiving these invitations to submit, to go to a meeting for PRA. Some of them, they went to a meeting and received the application for PRA, but they canceled all the in-person interviews. So that's why the person haven't been able to submit anything, or the application was sent to the address that is in the form that you receive, but the person were not, but the CBSA was not open, so they didn't have a mailing department that opened these envelopes and proceed with the applications. So that's what they are saying, that if your PRA was due during the COVID-19, uh, they are going to contact the people when they reopen to ask for more information. And they say, well, if you can send information right now, send it. But we are going to send you a note to you to say your deadline to submit more papers and submissions and everything will be this day. Um, and if and you can see, you can read what I am saying in the last your paragraph of this slide, where it says that the documents are going to be automatically contact and to give you an extra or a new 30 days to submit basically the whole submissions and evidences that you were not able to collect during the COVID-19. This is very important. Many people have contacted us about the issue of the pre-removal risk assessment, and this is very recent, the information that I am giving you. Um, and of course, many procedures before CBSA, IRCC, or IRB now are going to be e-post. No, they are using more the electronic communications. So the pre-removal, I give you all the information there. Remember that we are going to put this presentation in our website, and you can download it after, or talk to Okasi, but this presentation is free of charge and you can use it and abuse it as you wish. So, but this is the e-post, and you have to have an e-post. So you can imagine a refugee claimant without a lawyer and without support trying to open an e-post when the person doesn't speak English. So there is a lot of barriers. So that's why our suggestion is that if you know that person offer the possibility to open an e-post, is not that complicated for people that have access to technology, but for other ones that never have used that, is complicated. So, and everything will be sent to Vancouver, but you have to open the e-post, and you will be able, you will have to open e-post for IRCC, e-post for IRB, whatever. So that's just the first part. So this is a repetitive, you know what I mean, in terms of the pre-removal risk assessment. I am just giving you how to prepare the documents and everything. You don't have to read it right now. You can read it after, because the PRA presentations or the PRA submissions are very complicated. Why? Because the rate of acceptance of a PRA is 1%. So the person has a very few chances, but it's a good idea to submit the PRA because that stops the removal procedures, no? And in that way, if the removal procedures happen, if you stop it, you can do other application. You can link it to humanitarian application or something depending on the case of the situation. Plus, we don't know when the government is going to start really removing people to all of these countries, we will have to receive information. So that's why to submit the PRA, give more time to people to try to stay in Canada in a regular basis. You know, they are not considered illegal between quotations. Is a term that I hate the most. They are not considered removable because there is a PRA. So in that case, they can use their time to submit other applications. So the Canadian Border Service Agency as well is in charge of the detention center of precarious migrants or people that have a deportation inside. So in that way, you know, a pending deportation. So be aware that at the holding center and the Toronto Immigration Holding Center, we don't have there is no possible to visit. Even professional visits are not possible. No. So, and that's something that is complicated because so we haven't been able to see the people in person since March. So, and if the person doesn't have a contact, um, you know, with someone that can contact us or contact a lawyer or have the information about where to call, so the Toronto Refugee Affairs Council had an office there that haven't been attended or visited by our staff or the people collaborating with TRAC at the holding center due to these limitations. But the Refugee Law Office in Toronto is doing a wonderful job online and over the phone to holding people. So if you know about someone detained anywhere in Ontario, you can ask the person to contact the Refugee Law Office that has a specific pilot project to deal with any detainees in this particular time. The good news is that CBSA have basically liberate the vast majority of people that were detained before. More than half have been released. You know, the number of people staying in the holding center in Toronto is maybe 43, and the capacity is over 200 people. Plus, CBSA have been very effective in contacting us, organizations, refugee houses, when they see that a person may be detained, but they don't want to bring that person to the holding center because it's a liability issue. If you bring someone and that person is positive in COVID-19, that could be a problem for them. So they are avoiding that situation. So they contact us and they said, hey, we have this and this person, could you take it? And they provide the person to us without conditions because we requested that we are not going to supervise, we are not going to be responsible or whatever. So, and they are saying, well, yeah, no problem. So they have been in that way more open to this, and we have been in contact with them in several occasions about cases and whatever. But there is I am not saying that everything is perfect. There is people in detention right now and for reasons of criminality between quotation or whatever, or because they are internal flight, they are flight risk, they are not releasing, or because they don't have anybody, whatever, different conditions happen. But the vast majority have been released and they are trying to avoid to detain people. The other thing that they are trying to avoid is to go to houses to detain people. That was a procedure that they have when persons were not appearing to them. So they have the possibility, they are avoiding that. Because if they detain someone, they have to bring it to the detention center and that create an issue. But I want to say that the police of Toronto, continue detaining non-status people in Toronto. Even though we are saying all of this COVID-19, or even though all the intention of CBSA not to detain, how we know this? Because the people contact us through CBSA and said, you know, I am going to be released. Could you help me? to find a place, or could you help me to link with a lawyer and whatever. So, and the person is detained for 24 hours and released in the following 24 hours due to bond or maybe other situations. But the police in Toronto haven't received the memo yet. You know what I mean? And they continue detaining people even though. And we have some situations with the TTC, the Toronto Transit Commission, because they were also reporting people to non-status in this particular situation. So this is what I have about the Canadian Border Service Agency. So we can open to questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Francisco, for that very thorough taking us through in terms of the CBSA. We have one question, which is about the Refugee Law Office. Does the Refugee Law Office provide services in French?
Yes, they do. They provide services in French. Not everybody in the refugee law office speak French, but there is people dedicated to receive that answer or to provide services in French. They have other languages as well, but beside that, they have access to a pool of interpreters. If the person dealing with this particular situation doesn't speak French or doesn't speak particular language, the legal aid cover the cost of interpreters, and the interpretation will be like is right now over the phone. You know what I mean, or remote. But the language doesn't need to be a barrier for a person that is in detention. And if they have a problem with language, please contact us, because we have a direct line with legal aid. During the COVID-19, the channels with legal aid have been open more wider for these type of situations because they have more resources due to the reduce of number of refugees and, and people in detention and whatever. So in that case, we can help as well, but Refugee Law Office must provide interpretation at least for people that don't speak English.
Thank you. There's a question here, and I think this person, Hannah, is as alarmed as the rest of us in terms of your comment around TTC and TTC reporting to CBSA. And the question is, why is TTC involved in reporting undocumented individuals? How could they ever be sufficiently informed about commuters?
Yes, that's exactly. We already did the report to TTC. We already did the report to the city, because this person was detained and because the COVID-19, the person was released from CBSA. That's why when we realized that this was an issue, because when we have the interview with the person said, yes, I was in the station in Dundas West, and and they come and they ask me for this and that, and they put me in a corner and they call CBSA. You can imagine. So we try to figure it out. What happened? We haven't received a reply from the TTC about what really happened in this particular situation. What we only the only thing that we have is the version from the person that was transmitted to the city, to the office, the newcomers office of the city that make the contact with TTC, and we present the Toronto newcomers office came to talk to the person directly. I was the interpreter, and they get all the case, and they have the time, the location. They have even the name of one of the commissioners. I don't know how they're called and whatever. So we are working in the explanation. Then COVID-19 happens, and we haven't received a reply, and that's the excuse, but we are going to continue pressing the issue because this is the second case that we have where the TTC is involved.
Very good. If may I offer the suggestion that if you're not getting any traction, that I would partner up with the Confronting Anti-Black Racism unit at the City of Toronto, who I know have been doing some work with TTC around issues of race and racism.
Okay, please.
Yeah. So there's another question, and I think it's a clarification about your and our position on STCA, the Safe Third Country Agreement.
Uh-huh.
The person asked, so the person says, to recap, you discourage all irregular border crossings into Canada, or only not telling people not to cross into Quebec from the USA?
Um, I am not. I am no one to discourage
That's
anyone to
right.
do anything. So what I am saying is that the person has to be very well informed about the risk that they may face. And saying, please say to people, this is not the best time to do it. But if you are in an emergency situation or urgent situation, well, you may face this. The police or the control at the borders, particularly in the borders that have been identified as a irregular crossing, is is very heavy. They have presence, so that's why there are very good chances that the person could be intercepted, and they won't have the possibility to make a claim inland. They will be removed to Canada, and that's our concern. So, but the position of us haven't changed. I'm just describing the realities because this is a violation of the Canadian government of the international obligations that they have regarding refugees. There is no possible to impose, these type of barriers to refugees. We know that we are fighting for that ones because it's totally no reflecting our obligations, but the government continue imposing this restriction, and it's very problematic if the person is detained by the RCMP and removed to United States because the person could be end up in their country where they don't want to be. So that's why I am not saying please don't. I am just saying please inform that this is not the best time to do it and the risk is higher.
Thank you, Francisco. There's a next question, but it's actually about sponsorship. So we will hold that question, and I will invite you, Francisco, to move into the second piece on IRCC, Immigration,
O-
Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. Thank you.
okay. So the first thing that I want to say is about the biometrics. This has been a crisis though, because many and the government of Canada basically imposed biometrics almost for everything now in terms of applications. So and the problem is then all the biometric centers have been closed. So that's why we have been talking with the IRCC, and they said that the biometrics for people that have been making application even from outside Canada in this particular moment are not required. So they may ask the biometrics later on. You know what I mean? So you're exempt from giving biometrics if you are in Canada. You see the list, but at the end they said this exception apply even if your application form for work permit, studying permit, or visa say it's for apply applicants outside Canada. So they are giving a blank check saying for now on, because there is no possible to obtain it, we are going to proceed the application in the same way that the application were processed before. You know what I mean? This imposition of the biometric is very recent in many applications. So the problem is that Immigration Canada doesn't reply, and the people continue receiving letters. Let me put an example. Persons that make application for work permit inside Canada, they are still receiving letters saying, please provide the biometric, we will give you 90 days. So we just received a letter yesterday of a client requesting this, where if you go to the website of IRCC, it's very clear that the request of biometrics is not possible. So the other problem that we have is that biometrics have created the issue because that decision is not that old, is more or less maybe a month or maybe a month and a half old. Then all the applications that were submitted were stuck, and they didn't have any decisions whatsoever because they were waiting for the biometrics. Now that the whole situation changed, they are going to continue processing the applications without the biometrics. But so that's a problem, no? It's a problem because people don't know. Many people that call to our office don't know that the IRCC have been doing an exception of the biometrics, and people have been waiting for this. The other thing that you have to be aware is that now, from the last week to now, many people are receiving negative decisions for extensions of visas, visitor visas, but in a huge amount. They are refusing everybody. Why? Because the visa was approved, or the visa was sent in January. And so the 6 months for the time that you apply for the visitor visa have already expired. You have more than 6 months waiting for a decision. So they are sending the negative decision. But remember that work permits, visitors visas, student visas that were denied, or they were not, or they expire, you have until the 31st of December to do something about that. You can even send a reconsideration of the visitor visa rejection, and you have 6 months until the end of December to do this. If you don't understand this part, I understand you perfectly, because I think nobody understand totally what is I understand the intentions from Immigration Canada. What I don't understand is why they don't have it in a more precise way than said, work permits in this way from this time to this time are exempted, because that was what we were asking. It's not that they are going to no ask for biometrics or whatever. We said, why don't you don't do an automatic extension of all visas, all work permits, everything, then the person is okay until the pandemic is more or less clear. So they didn't want to do it. They tried to make it flexible to the procedures. So, you know, and visitors in specific is IRCC cannot process applications normally. No, that's clear. They say it everywhere. If you are eligible to travel, you must have a quarantine plan. No, that we already talked. If you are already in Canada and your visitor visa is still valid, you apply online for a visitor record to extend your stay in visa, or restoring the, the visa that was denied, or the visa that expired. But as I said, December 31st is the deadline for you to submit this application. So please tell people that we have to, if we are going to send a restoration of the visa, a work permit or whatever, we have to have all the information about why the COVID-19 affect the person in processing a concrete application, or do the restoration or the extension or whatever. But the person may have until December 31st to do it. The problem with this one is that most of the people don't have the money to pay for the extension. That's why we were asking the government not to charge the processing fees in these particular times, because the person don't have, many of them have lost their job. Many of them, they are losing the money. They don't receive the international student. They don't receive the money from back home, because the people back home have lost their job. So there is a situation, and they don't want to implement at least 6 months. You know, I don't want to use the term amnesty, but no charging processing fees for any of the applications due to COVID-19. Keep tuned. Maybe they will do something soon. So the other thing that I want to make very clear is the implied immigration status. Okay, if a person has an application submitted for work permit, for a student permit, and for visas, and they haven't received um, a decision, and the work permit have expired and the student permit have expired, don't worry. This is from the IRCC website. No, it's a implied status. So the person has an implied status until they receive a decision. And if they receive a negative decision, they have until December 31st to do a restoration of the status or an application or whatever. So this is very important. And what we do in our office is we print that one and we give it to person because some employers, they don't want to accept the work permit that is not valid, because that will have also implications in the social insurance number. Then people say, well, if your work permit is not valid, your social insurance number is not valid. It is valid, and it's an implied status. So the temporary workers, no, they are exempted to come to Canada. In Ontario how the situation have been. I am not saying that not only in Ontario, but in Ontario, the situation for migrant workers and temporary workers coming have been a big problem, no? So, but if you are going to travel, it's because you have a valid work permit, no? Or normally live in Canada, or you went for holidays to your country with a work permit, and now you are trying to come back. But the workers have to meet these criteria. No, have a letter of introduction, for the work permit, have a valid job offer, and can work once you enter Canada and complete the quarantine. So for the agriculture workers, that was a problem because the quarantine was monitored or provided by the employers. And that's where we have a serious issue. Some employers, they didn't respect the standards. And that's why it was, a pandemic. Many people were uh, test positive in these situations, and we have than two people die at least than we are of the information that is public than were migrant workers. That was how it was presented by the public and by the authorities, when in reality they were non-status workers. So, and they try, we don't know why that was presented in public, but the people that die, both of them were non-status workers. Then they come to Canada and they moved to Leamington and whatever. So and you can apply for work permit at the Canadian port of entry. You cannot, because many Americans or many people that are here, they just went to United States and tried to apply for a work permit with all the processes. It's not possible now because the restriction of traveling. So even though so you will have to do something here. This is a problem because many of the people that are trying to do this is because they have a visitor visa, but the visitor visa expire. How they go out and come back, or they have been working here without work permit, and there is no possible to make an application for work permit from inside Canada because they could be excluded. So this is a limitation that we have. Many people were using that way, but now there is no possible. The temporary students, I am not going to get involved in this one that much, but you can travel to Canada as an international student, but you have to go to the website to see all the examples that a student needs to be in Canada for their program. That's something that we oppose um, to do that, because now they are saying that you have to prove that you will be in workshops or you will be doing placements and doing this and doing that, laboratories, something that has to be present in Canada in order that you can travel to Canada. If not, the student permit won't be issued until the conditions change. Why we have a problem with this? Because many, many colleges that are doing, the students are doing placements, these placements have been canceled, and so they are doing the placement in a remote. or they are deferring the placement to the following semester or whatever. So if IRCC is taking a very hard approach to this one and say, well, if you are not going to do a placement in person, so why you need to be in Canada? So, and if the person has to be a renewal of that visitor visa, if the person is in Canada, I think won't be a problem. But if the person is coming from outside to try to have to study here, that will be an issue for being in Canada. This is something that was copied from United States, which is a pain, you know what I mean? Because we don't have to do this. And let me put examples concrete. We have people that are studying, that are from Toronto, that are studying in different places, you know, in Waterloo or wherever. And the students are, even though they are not going to go to the camp, they are moving to the places just to keep the environment of studying, you know what I mean? And to be related, they have a place that is rented already. You know, they are going to spend all that money. So we were saying to Immigration Canada, please don't do this. You know, it's not needed. If the person is coming to study, the situation is not going to be COVID-19 forever. So you can do in another way, allow them to come, have the 14 days quarantine, and then the person may go to study, and if the situation change, they may go to do many other things during the time. But anyway, but that's the restriction that I wanna put here, you know, or precise here. And if you see the document and they require is a valid student permit, a port of entry letter, introduction, and a port of entry letter of introduction that shows you and you were approved, you know, before the permit was approved before March 18, you are coming through US. But if you're coming from other countries, would be even more difficult. So talking about the things related to Immigration Canada, related to the refugee claimants, 5 things that you need to know. IRCC offices are not interviewing refugee claimants in person, period. No? So that's why that is called eligibility interview. That's not happening. They are not happening in the inland office. They are not happening anywhere in Ontario. You may be confused because some other part of Canada, Quebec in particular, they are doing eligibility interviews for refugee claimants starting last month. The expired refugee ID, the brown paper, is considered valid until further notice. This is an issue because not everybody believes that. So you can go to the website of IRCC where there is clear information saying that the brown paper is valid for further notice because nobody is renewing this document because the offices are closed and they don't have the mailing department yet open. So please try to advocate for your clients in case of that. The whole situation is problematic as well with the interim federal health program because the interim federal health program is related to the validity of the brown paper, but the brown paper is not valid. So you have to call, you know, Blue Cross and or go to the website of the Blue Cross and see in the refugee claimant section to see what they have there. What we do in the office, we call when a person have been rejected from the doctors, no? Even though you can also go and say to the walk-in clinic, you don't have the reason to not see this person because the provincial health is saying that anybody have access to any medical services during the pandemic, regardless immigration status. The other thing that you have to be aware is that the acknowledgement of the claim letter, valid of expire, is the proof that you have made a refugee claiming in Canada. This is happening because the person that make a claim during the pandemic, they receive by email something that is called the acknowledgement of the claim, until they receive the brown paper, until the office is open and they can see an officer to have the eligibility interview. That acknowledgement of the claim is valid for applying for Ontario Works, have a medical coverage in, but sometimes because the claimant was made, a long time ago and the IRCC offices are not open, they may be expired, but they are valid. Okay, they are valid until they receive the brown paper for eligibility interview. Inland refugee claimants are done by email. No, I will explain how this is done. So there is not an in-person interview. Don't send or don't. Please ask the person don't not visit the IRCC offices locally because they are closed. And so if not, if you need more information about that one, is coming. But if not, we can give it to you here in our offices where you can contact us. And the implied work permit status that is for everybody that I already explained. So what we are suggesting is that during this time, if you have a refugee claimant in front of you, or you have many refugee claimants around your office, then for different reasons they didn't, receive legal aid, this is the time to apply again. Because maybe they were not receiving legal aid because they have they were working and they have an income, but now they don't have an income any longer. The country conditions have changed, whatever. So this is the numbers, and you see, and you can ask for an interpreter. So you don't need to make the phone call if you speak the language of the client. You can ask, you can explain where to call, and um, and explain what is going to happen. They are going to receive two type of questions. One is about the merits of the claim, where they have to explain what happened, and they may ask to fax or to scan and email the basic of claim form if they already have presented, and they will ask for financials. And we have been able to talk to legal aid to go um, up in the income requirement. So, and you can check the website. The income requirement is now, I think, over 25,000 or 30,000, I don't remember. During the year, you have to guarantee that you have earned that amount of money already in the last 12 months. The majority of people that we help don't have that, and now they are in a bad situation, so they will be able to prove that they don't have that income. So please, and the income is even higher for families. The first requirement was when you just entry that you don't earn more than $14,000 a year. But now with the COVID-19, you can check in the website, there is more eligibility. And if you make a phone call or your client make a phone call to legal aid and is refused, please ask the person to take notes, because we can do in our office a reconsideration of that decision. So we already have negotiated with legal aid that they are going to take not an appeal, it's a reconsideration of the decision before we go to the appeal process. So changes in the inland refugee claimant, no interviews. So that's why they create this email. When you can send a request, you express that you want to make a refugee application. You put the names and the names of all the people that are making a claim, and explain the reason very briefly, and you will get an automatic reply. And the automatic reply is that you have to open up an e-post, for you, in order that you can make, submit all the documents that are listed here, no? So why we are suggesting legal aid? Because all of this process is very complicated. And that's why it will be great if a person have access to a lawyer, because the lawyer is going to do everything like this. So, and now, because the number of refugee claimants have reduced, the possibilities to receive legal aid are higher than before. So therefore, you know, um, please, some people, they feel, okay, the refugee claimants doing it by themselves. We always try to advise that even if you feel okay doing it, it's better to have a good lawyer beside you. you know what I mean, that understand and help you with the procedures. So that's why we always suggest that one. Sometimes the legal aid refuse. Now in these times, we can help you. If the person doesn't have any other support, you can email us and we can remotely work with the person to fill the forms and whatever in order that the person can submit the, the refugee claimant by themselves, and maybe you can help the person to open the e-post. But we can do something even if legal aid is not approved. So that's the information for the e-post and all the documents that you have to send. You can go to the website of IRCC and all the forms and all the procedures are there as well. So I want to finish this part saying that one of the problems that we have is with the humanitarian and compassionate applications. You know that the any person that is not doesn't have a pending refugee case and doesn't have a permanent status can apply for a humanitarian application. And we have been encouraging and we have been receiving an increase of questions in our office about this, and we have been distributing the information that we have in different language about this. The problem is that we don't have an idea how IRCC is processing the new application. We don't have even a clear idea if they are opening the file that are sent for a agency. You know, that's the problem. So people is in a hurry to submit it, and we're saying, well, calm down. Maybe we wait a little bit because so far we don't know who, if they are even going to open your application. So it's better than, but some person say no. And if the person insists and wants to send it, we send it, you know what I mean, to the address that we have and everything. But we explain to the person, don't believe that you are going to receive an email saying your application has been received in 3 months. Could be way longer of that. And that's a situation that is happening because, believe me or no, or maybe you have a better understanding of this than me, our system were paper-based, you know, right up to COVID-19. Paper-based traditional mailing things. They were starting to use some emails to communicate with people, and that was a great thing because now we have received positive decisions for agencies by email, for instance. That is because the case was submitted way before, no? But you're talking about the new cases. The problem that we have is that the no idea how IRCC is processing the new applications, opening the files and whatever. The criteria for HNC of establishment and hardship haven't changed. So, and the processing fee haven't changed yet, but it's going to change next year. If you see the scale that the IRCC did for processing fees, now will be the index component of 2%. And that is going to be affecting even the processing fee for agencies. So that's what I have for IRCC, Madam Debbie.
Thank you very much, Francisco. We have a number of questions. Probably will overlap with your first piece on CBSA as well. So the first question, is there any improvement on sponsorships? So for example, people who are sponsoring their family members, any update on that?
Um, yes, there is an update of that, and it's not good. Because the COVID-19, all the offices outside Canada of the Canadian government, the embassies and the the assistance centers for visitors and whatever, they are closed. So we have situations where people have received the approval of the sponsorship. So, and they are just waiting for the family to come, but there is not a way that they can come because the traveling restrictions. So depending on the country. So in terms of the procedures, that's the bad news. That if the person is in Canada, the procedure proceed. You know what I mean, in a way. As I said, the biometrics have been removed, but there is many other things that need to happen. Let me put an example. some people don't have the passports, and the passports are not issued by their country in this particular moment. um, some people has to buy a ticket to come to Canada. There is no resources. Some people or travel restrictions. But in terms of the procedure, the issue is that immigration Canada haven't make very clear what are the limitations that they have to process application, and it's up in the air, and
Yeah.
people is receiving letters that are, what is this? You never asked me for a DNA test about my son when I prove it. And we believe that they are doing this because they want to keep the people busy. I mean, because they don't have a solution for the backlog. The last time that we have a conversation about the backlog with IRCC, um, they said that the backlog is over 100,000 applications that they have, not only with one specific sponsorship. I am talking about spouse sponsorship, family sponsor of children, and the backlog that they have with for parents. No, and remember that the parents haven't been open the process yet. So this year continue close. What the
Yeah.
people is doing, than the parents are here in Canada, is submitting a humanitarian application. Because we don't know when the parents' sponsorship will be open. Right now. So, and the other problem that we have is that IRCC insists in this restriction of agencies to be representing claimants or applicants in the sponsorship application, and the restriction about filling forms for people applying for sponsorship. The way that we have overcome that situation in our office is that we submit a representative form. So we become the representative of that person, and we never have been challenged about anything of this. I know that we are a weird animal here in the FCJ Refugee Center, and we do things, what I mean? And I know that the restrictions of many agencies that you may have. But so far, if you check the website of Immigration Canada, it's like nothing happened with the sponsorship. Like every, I am telling you just anecdotal information, because that's the information that we have been
Yeah.
receiving from the people that we have around the office.
Yeah, thanks for that, Francisco. We have a number of questions, so I'm going to ask you to keep your answers a bit shorter. But thank you for raising the whole issue on Section 91 and organizations' inability to support, or organizations choosing because of fear of liability, but also of their funding. Those of who are funded by IRCC. So organizations like OCASI and the Canadian Council for Refugees has taken on this issue in a big way, and we're continuing to fight with IRCC about exempting sector organizations from Section 91 of RFA. The next question, given that the current time for refugee claims at the border is months, would it be advisable for claimants to go to Viva, submit information for claim, and then wait around in New York till their appointment comes up?
That's what they are doing. I mean, that's exactly what the people is doing. They go. Vive doesn't have a space to have you there sometimes, so the people have to find a place to stay in Buffalo, in cheap hotels or whatever, and wait for an space in Vive if the person move out, or wait for the appointment. But that's exactly what people is doing, and the majority of these people, they are receiving the support, the financial support for friends or families in Canada, trying to support them for the time that they are waiting.
Yeah. That's good. Noha wants to know, she has a question on implied status, but wants to ask it in person. And so we will unmute her at the end if we have time, so she can ask the question as
Sure,
opposed to
sure, no
typing it.
problem.
Okay. A question from Wahida. If an international student is applying to study in Canada for the first time, are there any new rules for them to enter Canada? You spent a lot of time talking about this.
Yes, I will suggest that I put a lot of information in my presentation about this, but there is a lot information in the IRCC website. It's unbelievable. I think it's the longest piece that they have developed in the website of IRCC. Go and check it. There is a lot of requirements, um, and I want to say that not fundamental requirement that is the problem. You know, if you are registered in in a academic institution and you have the money to come to Canada, that was it. You know, and now they are saying, no, you have an introduction letter. You have to have information about your quarantine plan. You need to prove that the classes that you are going to receive have to be in Canada in person, whatever. So there is many requirements. Yes, you have to check it before you do an application.
Thank you. The next question. I have a client who is a convention refugee and applied to extend the work permit in February while her work permit was expired. She hasn't got her new work permit and she has stopped working because she doesn't have a valid social insurance number. Can she go back to work while waiting for her new work permit to arrive?
The answer is yes. It's an implied status, and the work permit is implied, and the social insurance number has to work. Um, I know we don't have a clear sense about the social insurance number, you know, because we have been asking that question, and we haven't received an answer. They say, well, if they have an implied work permit, the social insurance number is valid. But my answer, short answer is yes. And please, if the person need to prove the implied status, please print the situation that I put in the presentation that is in the website of Immigration Canada, that is clear, that is implied status, and everything is valid and the person is allowed to work.
Yeah. What do I do if my client has not yet received his refugee ID?
Nothing. Just wait. That's the problem. The people is in limbo. You know what I mean? The people need to receive acknowledgement of the claim. That is an email that you receive is a white paper that you just print and you just give it to the person. The acknowledgement of the claim is substituting the brown paper, you know, in the time being that eligibility interviews are not possible. The other thing is if the brown paper expire, remember, it's an implied status and you can use it for anything that you need to use it.
Can a refugee claimant apply for a work permit with the letter?
Yes, they can. Theoretically, yes. But remember that to apply for a work permit, you need to do the medicals. And if you haven't done the medicals, if you apply, the work permit is going to wait until you know, you can do the medicals. Many people that apply for refugee status, make a refugee claimant during the COVID-19, they received the acknowledgement, but they didn't receive the forms to go to a doctor to do the medicals. So you have to check. And if the person haven't received the forms or the authorization to go to do the medicals, uh, remember that in the acknowledgement of the claim, there is a UCI number. So you can contact a registered doctor in your city and talk to that person if the doctor can check through the UCI number if this person is allowed to do the medicals. And if they are allowed to do the medicals as soon as possible in order that you can apply for a work permit later on. But if the person have done the medical exams already, they can, with the acknowledgement of the claim, they can do an application for work permit.
Thank you. For all the folks asking about the presentation, yes, we will make the presentation available to you. We are also recording. I believe we can also make the recording available, but the materials will be available. We can email it to all of you who have registered, and it will also be available on the FCJ Refugee House website.
And Debbie, can I clarify something else?
Yes.
When the person make a claim, remember that we have been fighting, but you know, very hard with the IRCC to include in the applications questions about work permit. So technically, the person that make a claim, when they fill all the forms, and this is particularly the Schedule 12, is a question about work permit. So the work permit application was submitted at the moment that you have the eligibility interview. The problem is that the eligibility interviews are canceled. So in that case, even if the person have submitted this form, so we don't know how the IRCC is going to proceed with the work permit. So that's why we are saying, if you have the medicals done, do the application of work permit. If you don't have the medicals, do the medicals and do a new application for work permit later on.
Okay. A number of questions. I want to take questions for the next 4 or 5 minutes, Francisco.
Sure, sure.
Um, this colleague has a client who has been living in Canada since 2009 with her family. Her H&C application was refused recently. What are her options?
Well, two options. One is to do a judicial review of the negative decision of the in basis of the negative decision of the humanitarian application. So we can help you with that one. You can email me the decision, and if you haven't received the reasons of the decision, because sometimes you receive, most of the time you receive only the first page that said your humanitarian application was denied. So we need to have the reasons. You have to request the reasons of that decision, and remember that from the time that they receive that decision, you have 15 days to submit an application to the federal court. But the federal court is closed. Good news, no? So we have an extension. So in that case, please submit, if you have the decision, please, if you don't have it, please request it. And if you don't have a lawyer around you that can check it is possible to do the federal court, you can email it to us and we can reply to you, no problem. The problem is that the legal aid doesn't cover H&C judicial review, so the person will have to pay. So
Yeah.
that's why we offer a second option to the person. As for the reasons why the humanitarian application was denied, and we work in a new application trying to fit all these barriers or problems that the officer found in your original application, because you can do as many humanitarian applications as you can. Remember that the main reason why humanitarian applications are refused is because they are not well put together. No, so in that case, if you are going to submit a second one, has to be put it as better as possible. You know what I mean? Because you already missed one chance. So, but we can help with that one. And remember that legal aid cover the cost of a new humanitarian application, you know, for lawyer. No, I'm not talking about processing fee, but
Yeah.
legal aid is covering the expenses of lawyer, the time of a lawyer to put together an H&C. Lawyers were refusing to do H&Cs because they were low pay, they were saying, but now that they don't have that much job, guess what? They are fighting for legal aid applications for H&C. So in that case, you can do many things about that one.
But, any updates on private and or group refugee sponsorships?
No, I don't.
Okay. Are refused claimants allowed to stay in Canada for the next 12 months so that they can apply for H&C?
Um, yes, well, the reality is saying that they are not removing people, no? It's not that they are saying you are going to wait for 12 months, but if the person wait for 12 months, of course, they can do a humanitarian application after receiving a negative decision from the IRB or from the Refugee Appeal Division or from the federal court. Okay, remember that there are exceptions to this 1 year window, okay? And the exceptions are medical conditions. If you are facing medical conditions that will be worsened by the deportation, you can apply, or there is no situations back home. And the other one is the if you have children in Canada, you know what I mean, that are depending of you, that will be affected by the removal procedures. So that's what I can say, but the time is not scheduled, is then they are waiting for the borders to open up. But if the person is here and wait for 12 months, they can do the humanitarian application if they are singles.
Okay, I'm going to try and do two or three more questions, and then you can do your final session. If senior parents from the U.S. wanted to come to visit their children, would Canadian borders let them into Canada? And what proof do they need to have to enter Canada?
So could you repeat the question, please, Debbie?
Um, Senior parents, so elder parents, American senior parents, can they come and visit their children in Canada? And what would they
Um,
need to show? This is about, I'm assuming this is about non-essential travel.
yeah, it's not essential travel. I think what we are suggesting to people is that they do an affidavit before a notary public when they explain the essential reasons why the parent has to come and visit, because that has to be proved at the border. So just to visit is not an essential, and particularly if they are seniors, because it's not recommendable now for seniors to travel. So in that case, my suggestion will be that they put together a list of issues why the senior has to travel here, and that must be not just visiting. I haven't seen my child for 2 years. No, no,
Yeah,
has to be something, and that's the problem. What will be the other reason? Uh,
exactly.
so, and that's why it's problematic. And we said, check it out. And we also, what we do is uh, to the reasons that you are putting together, we have a contact with the CBSA at the 480 border. And we can send an email to them and say, this is the reason, the essential reasons why this parent, and they can tell us that doesn't meet the criteria, and we can let you know. So in that case, look for an essential reason that is not only I want to see my child and I haven't been with them for a while. And remember that this, in terms of public health, is not recommendable the traveling of seniors in this particular time.
Good. So two last questions before I let you continue. What should this colleague wants to know? What should she say to her client who has sponsored his daughter, who is ready to land in Canada?
Um, you know, that's we just have we have two situations in my office. One is a mother decide was a case that was it, the application for a sponsor was ready, was submitted, was approved, and the 18 years old girl was in Barbados, no, and the mother somehow, don't ask me, brought the daughter here, and the brother arrived. You know what I
Oh,
mean? And because they were desperate and they were not going anywhere with the even though everything was approved. CBSA let the person come into Canada. They put it in quarantine, and now we are in the process of informing everybody that the person is already in Canada in order that we change the procedure. We have another case where everything is approved, but they are from a distant country and they have to travel and stop in other places than they haven't been able to do it. So if everything is approved, I think we will have to continue putting pressure in Immigration Canada. We know there is a list of countries in the IRCC and CBSA where they are able to travel from that country to Canada. There is a very clear list. So if the person can reach than one specific country of that, and to come to Canada will be possible. If the person is in a country where there is no possible to come to Canada directly, it's very problematic. So we just managed to bring a family reunification from Afghanistan, but the person was in Turkey. the rest of the family was in Turkey, and we managed to bring because Turkey is now having traveling occasionally to Canada. So I don't know if I am making sense what I was saying, but it's a very problematic because we have many cases where everything is approved. And but there is no way for them to bring them here. Some of them, they are in a more difficult situation because they say, well, I have to submit my passport to receive this stamp, but it's not a way to submit it. You know what I mean? Even though everything is approved.
Yeah.
So it's a very confusing time. And it's a very problematic to explain that to the families. But that's what we are doing, saying all the options to them.
Yeah, thank you. There's a question, how long does it take refugee claimants to get the hearing during COVID-19, which I think you responded to? Is a spousal sponsorship back to normal processing, which you've responded to? There's a question, what is the Canadian government doing for Lebanon?
What is
And
the Canadian doing for Lebanon? Um, I am not the right person to answer that question. I think
yeah,
Debbie is the right person.
I was going to say, I think all we've heard is that the Canadian government has committed $5 million so far, which we know does not even begin to be sufficient. We haven't heard anything about the Canadian government airlifting Lebanese Canadians out, but we are paying attention to those things. There is an increasing call from Lebanese communities here for the Canadian government um, to step up a bit more than they have, given the tragedy that happened a few days ago. So thank you, Francisco. On to the last session,
Okay.
the IRB.
The IRB, what I want to say is that I will start with the process of the the file review process. This is a process that is already in place, where are the list of countries and the list of type of cases that can join this process is in the IRB website. Look for um, ref, um, refugee claimants that doesn't need to go to refugee hearings. So the file review process is on paper. There is a list of countries and a type of cases. Let me put an example that everybody is going to understand. Yemen, for instance. So Yemen said, if you are from Yemen and you manage to come to Canada, submit all the evidences that you have to go there. No? And there is, in other cases, like Nigeria, for instance, Nigeria is there, but said, we want only type of cases where police brutality and corruption is involved in this case. So depending of the country where you come from and depending of the type of case, you can apply for this one. You can talk to your lawyer and apply for the file review process that is on paper, and the IRB is only entitled to make positive decisions in this process. If they are going to go negative, they don't make a decision, they refer the case to the refugee hearing process normally. Okay, so but please check it out. No, and the lawyers now can identify cases to the IRB and said, this is a file processing case, please, check it out. But we suggest that in order to submit a request about this one, you have to have a very complete proof and evidences and everything in your case. Because if not, you will lose the possibility to be accepted. So please, talk to your lawyer about this one. But this is a file review process that have been with us for at least a year and a half or 2 years. You can check all the information in the IRB. This is what I want to focus, is the new type of refugee hearings. The IRB is called the in-person operations, is the first one. So then, summarize as a refugee hearings in person. The problem is that this is false advertising, because what they mean for in-person operations is that the refugee claimant and the lawyers are going to go to the building of the IRB. And but inside the building of the IRB, um, they are going to be, the board member and the interpreter will be in another room, and the claimant and the lawyer will be in another refugee hearing room, and they are going to connect video conferencing inside the IRB building. So we immediately react and say, don't call it in person, please, because it's not in person. You know, the refugee claimant may have the idea that he's going to see someone at the IRB building that is going to hear directly from, and it's not true. But this is happening, no? So they started already with these in-person refugee hearings, August 3rd. In theory, was the day that they are going to start with the procedure. So they already start. So in theory, the refugee claimant will receive a package uh, prepared about the safety protocol, and you can also check it in the website of the IRB, about, because the person has to go to the building and has to be a physical distance procedure. You know what I mean? And they have to see how the person is going to take breaks and how name it. It's a very complicated. And at the entrance, the refugee claimant and everybody entering will be asked to complete a questionnaire and a screening test. So, and we were have been asking the ARB in how many language this is going to be, and no answer yet. No, and but the refugee hearings in person already start, and the appointments will be organized in a way that no many claimants are in the same time arriving to the building. So, and the waiting room of the IRB is closed. So nobody is going to go to the waiting area. People are going to be from the street floor directly to the refugee hearing room with the lawyer, and they have to entrance together. So as I said, the IRB had modified some rules as well, because now they are receiving electronic documents, no, than they were not want to receive it before. Um, this is no, that comments I will make it. So that's one operation in person that is happening, no? So to practice social distance, I already explained. The other criteria is that children under 12, but now expanded to under 18, are not obligated to attend the refugee hearing. Younger than 12 was the normal procedure, but now if a child is under 18, a member of a family, the child is not necessary has to attend, only if the IRB requested, or only if the minor, the young person, is making a claim by themselves, because in that case will be, of course, have to be there. And the priority for this will be refugee hearings that were canceled already due to COVID-19. That will be the first target of people doing in-person refugee hearing. Uh, and they said that they will be a special consideration for vulnerable claims, because claims have been affected by COVID-19 due to isolation, due to many things, those things that happen back home, whatever. So there will be a way better understanding, or trying to be more understanding of that situation in the way than the refugee hearing is proceed. But remember, will be a video conferencing, and that exactly from one room to another one, and that is exactly a problem, because many of the refugee claimants, they never have been, in a situation like that before. So, but that's one of the so I explained the file processing, you know, on paper, and now the in-person refugee hearings. The other one is a pilot project that is called remote refugee hearings video conferencing. So this is problematic, in a way. Why? Because this is a pilot project that will be administered by IRB Vancouver. So the board member is not going to be here sitting in Toronto. No, the board member are going to be sitting in Vancouver, and that's the board member that is going to hear the refugee hearing claim, the refugee claim. So and the different members or parts of the refugee hearing could be anywhere. The refugee claimant could be at their home if they decide to do it that way. A lawyer in the lawyer's office, the interpreter somewhere, and the board member in Vancouver. And everybody's going to connect, and they are going to have the refugee hearing. So what we are suggesting to the claimants is, please try that the lawyer in your case allow you to go to the lawyer's office to do the refugee hearing there. Why? Because many of our claimants don't have a very good internet, for instance, or they don't have the technological capacity to do this. They don't have a laptop, even though the IRB suggests that if you have a smartphone and you have access to a camera in your phone, you can do it from your phone, which is a little bit complicated for me to hear. Plus, if they said that you can do it from your home office, uh, come on, what I mean? How many people living from Ontario works has a home office in their home and have the technical capacity? So, and the interruptions, privacy. So that's why we are saying it's better than you do it. And we have even suggesting the IRB to do the cases uh, from our office. So if a person doesn't have the capacity to do it from their home, and the lawyer doesn't have the capacity to see because some solo practitioners don't have big rooms, so then maybe the claimant could be here in our office and they can do the refugee hearing here. The answer is yes. Then the claimant decide from where they are going to do the refugee hearing. But this is a pilot project. They said that they are not going to continue with this one, but so far, the person that were invited received this type of letters, no? And the letter was only in English. And this letter was addressed to the council. So, and the council is the one that has to call the refugee claimant and explain everything that they require in the letter. One of the problem is that lawyers are saying, well, this is not covered by legal aid, and I have to spend an hour explaining the new procedure to my client. And also, it's very problematic that this one is not in their own language, because the person has to read to understand, and it's not just a simple explanation. And with the letter, they receive the consent form, and if you see, is a space for an interpreter. So how that is going to be done electronically or remote? I mean, we haven't received an explanation. But what we are doing in our office is that lawyers said we are not seeing people in our office, so we set up the appointment for the claimant to come to our office. We have a big room at the back. We open from the back. The person comes, sign the form, and we email it to the lawyer in order that the lawyer can send it. Or the lawyer, they can fix the problem, no, by themselves. And the other form is a remote hearing pilot project information, where you have to say from where you are going to where are you going to be and how you are going to connect, and commit if you have the technical capacity to do this one from wherever you are. So this is and you can see there that what is required, no? And believe me, I don't think that many of the people doing this from home will be possible. Some lawyers, they haven't even have to update their Wi-Fi in order to do this. The RAD, a special measure for reopening. So this is about the new procedures. I want to say that if the person, the pilot, the letters from the pilot project for video conference were already sent, all the people that were supposed to be part of this already received it, and they have to answer, no? And they are now receiving the dates when the refugee hearing is going to happen, and is going to be with the IRB member in Vancouver. And the other one that I talked to you, that was um, the um, the in-person refugee hearing. All of this is already happening as well. People have been already connected, and lawyers have been contacted. Dates for refugee hearing have been already scheduled, but the situation continues. And in terms of the refugee appeal division, I just want to say that you know, the what you have to pay attention is in the last paragraph, where the time limit for filing a notice of appeal or the appellant records is later than August 19, the, the due date continues. So if you have a due date that was before August 19, your due date become August 19. If you receive an information for your appeal, and the date for your submit the notice of appeal and the record is after August 19, you continue with that one. So please contact refugee claimants, because many people receive notice of or information about the appeal way in March, way in April, and they were not able to submit anything because the Refugee Appeal Division were not receiving anything by mail and in person. So in that case, the due date is August 19 for the people that have not submit the, the refugee appeal notice or the appellant record, and the due date was before August 19. I hope that is clear. So one issue that you may find now with the Refugee Appeal Division is that now, because they reopened the mail system, they are sending as many decisions that they can than they were done during the appeal, than they were not able to send it by ordinary mail. No, so people are receiving either negative or positive. So be aware, mistakes are going to happen. They already happen in my office. We received two letters from the Refugee Appeal Division. One, when they said that the appeal was dismissed, and the same day, another envelope saying that your appeal was approved for the same person. You can imagine. So, and that was received also by the claimant. And the claimant didn't speak any English. So the claimant went to the roommate, no, and said, "Could you tell me what they say?" And the roommate said, "Well, you were denied and you were approved," you know, and so that was crazy. And we, and in the envelope, one envelope has the negative and has the reasons why it was denied and was his reasons, and in the other one that was a positive decision under the name of the same person, but the reasons were for another client. That is a violation of privacy, because he's sending the information of another claimant to another person. You know what I mean? That doesn't have anything to do with this. We contact the Refugee Appeal Division immediately, and we said, they said, please, please, please call the client and destroy the forms, and you know, I mean, and all this stuff. But I say, come on, you know, give me yeah, I will do that. But what happened here? No, this is not possible. That you are saying two decisions contradicting each other to a person. Anyway, so wait for that decisions, wait for that mistakes. I already talked to the acting deputy chair for the Refugee Appeal Division, Angus Grant, and Angus apologized and said, let me go to the bottom of this issue and, and I will call you back and whatever. But he said, Francisco, be prepared. We did this one in a hurry just to give a decision to the person, and we sent more than 100 application decisions in less than a week, and we are going to continue doing that. So bear with us and please help us to clarify the mistakes that we do. So, but be aware that this is going to happen. Okay.
Francisco, a time check. We have 6 minutes left in the 2 hours.
And this is the information that you have for the refugee appeal. You know, if you want to do the e-post communication with them, all the information is there that will be posted in the website.
Yeah.
I finished.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have one question, but I wanted to go to our colleague who wanted to ask you a question in person. I believe the person's name is Naha. Will you please unmute yourself and ask the question now before we run out of time? If you're still with us.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So my question was about implied status for work permits. And yeah, I understand that implied status means you've submitted the application, that you have to keep some documentations that you've submitted the application. But what I've seen with myself and also with clients is that it puts them at a disadvantage to find a job, at a further disadvantage, because I think employers are very hesitant to hire someone who doesn't have a work permit or their SIN number has expired. And also even if you give them, that happened to me and it also happened to my clients, where if you give them okay, you can contact IRCC, you can do this, look at this documentation, they just don't want to deal with it. So I was wondering, is there a way is there another way to do it that doesn't put people at a further disadvantage at finding a job, especially at this time? So that's
No, you know, this is all the arguments that we have expressed to IRCC. Everything that you said, because it's clear for Immigration Canada, but it's not clear for the civil society. The employer is going to contact IRCC to clarify this? No, no way, Jose. So that's why we have take the responsibilities as an office that when a person comes, we contact the employer directly. And sometimes the employer believes us and sometimes doesn't. So that's why we want to have a more clear answer from IRCC. And that's why we were saying, why you don't say that your work permits are issued and will be up to this day, and you put it in the media everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you put a communication that people can print and say this is it, but they haven't done it. So I'm sorry, I am with you. You know, and that's the fight that we have. But the only thing that we can do is to call the employer and depend on the employer if they accept our version of the things, that is the right one or no. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That's something we will press with IRCC on this, or ESDC. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noha. One question in the box. A refugee came through the border and is now a convention refugee, a convention immigrant. Can he bring his wife and children who are in the U.S. as well as back in the country of origin?
Yes, of course. The procedure is called family reunification. And the only limitation is the age of the children, because the children has to be younger than 22 at the day that the person make a claim in Canada. Doesn't matter if the person is over now, 22, has to be younger than 22 at the time that they make the claim in Canada. Yes, and the application continue being the same. It's an online procedure. And if you need help, we can help you with that one. And now that we do remote, we can help you anywhere. So, or you can refer clients to us. We help people to do applications for permanent resident, including family reunification.
Yeah, so if someone quickly, and I'm hoping that we can extend your time by about 5 minutes, Francisco. If someone's work permit expired and so had implied status, and you said that they can still work, is it true if the work permit expired before they applied to renew it?
Well, now, you know, these, what I said about the renewal or the, then until December 31st was announced last month.
Yeah.
So, and that's the things that we don't understand how they are going to implement it. We expect that will be retroactive, you know, retroactive for the day for March. So in that case, if we are okay with that, so even if the person submit the extension of the work permit later, that will be processed. That's the understanding that I have. But this is an interpretation because Immigration Canada haven't make very clear that part. But my point is, if you submit the application late, because now you have until the 31st of December, you know what I mean? And guess from the, because they have to answer you. But I believe that it won't be a problem according to the information that we have.
Thank you. Sadia had asked a question earlier, and I thought she wanted the information in writing, and now she's asked me to ask a question. Unfortunately, Sadia, I can't. There are too many. I can't find your question. So hopefully you will be able to find the answer in the presentation that Francisco gave. As I said, we will be sending out the slides. The presentation.
Remember that my email is there.
Yeah.
Please send me an email directly if you have a question, and I will be delighted to answer you directly. That's no problem.
Oh, very good. Sadia, did you hear that? You can send your question directly to Francisco. His email is on here, Francisco Rico at FCJ Refugee Center, and I can't see if it's .ca or .com.
.org.
.org. So Francisco Rico at fcjrefugeecenter.org. Please send him your questions and he will be very pleased to answer. We will be sending you the slide presentation. It will also be posted on the FCJ Refugee Center website. Thank you so much, Francisco. There are lots of thank yous on the chat list. People are very grateful for how informative you are when you do this presentation. You're a great teacher. You make us all pay attention for 2 hours without falling asleep. So we truly appreciate the way you present very complicated and complex information in very clear and precise ways. We truly appreciate it. Before I let you go, one commercial from Okasi. We've sent out a survey. We're trying to get a sense of how you're coping with COVID and how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected you and your work. Please, if you have not seen it, please ask your executive director to send it to you. We're looking for frontline workers especially. I think as of yesterday, we had over 150 frontline workers who've applied. We want to hear from all of you. There are over 14,000 of you in the OCASI membership. So you truly inform our policy priorities and the advocacy work we take up. So really wanting to ensure that you have everything that you need to be able to continue to do your work, especially as we continue to build our new reality as a sector. So thank you again, Francisco Rico-Martinez, for a fabulous 2 hours. Thank you for all of our participants, all 300 and almost 70 of you who registered, and for all of you who made it. I know people were trying to get in as late as 5 minutes ago. I'm not sure what that's about, but hey. So have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday afternoon. And we will be in touch with you with the follow-up evaluation for this session, as well as a reminder to look out for our survey on COVID, and that's being sent by Manoli and Aina, two of my colleagues in the policy team. So thank you once again, and we will see you next time at an OCASI session. Enjoy your day.
Okay, bye-bye, madam.